Hello there. My name is Fiona Whelan and this is my video about the theme Connected Yet Disconnected, the Paradox of Technology and Relationships. Now, of course, this whole project brief is focused around apathy and the idea of generation disconnect. And I think this topic fits in perfectly. So first of all, I just want to put this little quote up that was in Twenge's book that I really think sums up this idea of technology and our changed way of having relationships. So as you can see, it's saying about how technology's completely changed the way we live, but most importantly, and how we relate to each other. And I really think this is the case. I think technology has completely changed the way we relate to each other. And I think we all know that and we've all realized that. But the issue is that people are thinking that that's just the way it is now. There's nothing we can do to change it. We can't go back to the authentic relationships we may have once had. And that's what this video is trying to show, that yes, we can. We just need to realize what's happening and come up with little ways we can change how we interact with one another to bring back the more authentic relationships that may have existed in the past. So little spin around. Okay. So first of all, what is apathy? So obviously there's loads of different definitions. I like the definition Urban Dictionary uses. I know it's not super academic, but I think it really just brings the idea of what a lot of my generation, Gen Zers, kind of feel about this topic. So Urban Dictionary defines apathy as being in a state of indifference or not caring one way or another. I think that's what's happening now, is people are just not caring one way or another. It's like, yeah, technology's there, it's ruined everything. Okay, yeah, my parents may have had it better without it, but like, what can I do? I can't change the way it is. Let's just move on. Which in some ways, yes, that's important. It's important to realize, a blame game isn't going to help anything. For older generations to blame how we now interact with one another when, we've grown up in a completely different time. But at the same time, if we realize that we may have preferred the way that older generations might have interacted, it's not too late to go about those ways of interacting as well. And that's why I think apathy really applies to this theme of this feeling of, we're more connected than ever in many ways, yet loneliness is on the rise and we're actually disconnected from humans more than ever. So to bring in a little bit of theory, Dana Boyd, of course, is a really good theorist for social media topics. And she talks about these affordances of social media. Now, I'm not going to go through everything here because it's not all of it really relates to what I'm talking about at the moment. She describes the online space as publics, and these publics can be like, just people you have shares a common belief with, or even just like your closest peers. And the affordances that she describes of social media are persistence, replicability, scalability, and searchability. But I wanted to add in Treem. Treem kind of describes the affordances of social media within organizations, and they bring in this idea of editability. And I think editability is a really dangerous affordance in the way that we communicate with one another nowadays, because we now have the opportunity of saying something, texting something, and being able to quickly fix what we said and kind of undo something that we said, which is really not what you can do in real face-to-face interaction. And yeah, that's kind of, removing the authenticity of interactions and conversations we're having with people when it takes place online. So these affordances up here are the high level affordances, but I personally think low level affordances are really what is crucial to understand when looking at interactions online. And I think they're actually quite negative and don't really add much to online relationships. And when I say relationships, I mean friendships or intimate relationships, but I just mean interactions between humans that take place in a technological sphere. So these low level affordances include things like likes, comments, shares, read receipts. And I think a lot of the time now, I don't know, it's kind of tricky because everyone has different views on this, of course. I'm obviously just talking about my views here, that I think sometimes people now think that just liking a post or commenting every now and then on their friend's social media post is enough for maintaining a friendship and is the equivalent of reaching out to say hi, when I really don't think it is. And these read receipts, I think, are little divils, because people now can choose to have a preview of what is said and plan out a strategic answer. And that's just removing honesty. Like, if you're to say something to someone's face, you don't have that chance to kind of hear what they say and then think about it and come back. You can, but it's not a very honest answer. So this idea that you can just turn off your read receipts, it's kind of like you can have this secret little look, a little sneak peek into what has been said, to then come up with a better answer, and then you can use the affordance of editability and edit what you've said. It's like, none of this is real. It's not a real interaction, and that is what's happening so much now. And of course, yeah, okay, I'm gonna move on. I don't want this to be a rant. I want to explain. I just want to go through some of this theory to show different ways and how our interactions have changed online. So yeah, in a world full of options, relationships are so different now. Now, I'm not going to go into the idea of dating apps, because that's a whole other thing. But even with that, it's this idea of you have so much choice out there, and you could be talking to someone and know that they're talking to 10 other people at the same time, and it's, you're not making the real connections that you would have before. Obviously, dating apps are amazing as well, and they work out really well I know loads of people in relationships from dating apps, and that's amazing. But I just think on a surface level, it's this disposability of people, because there's so many options out there. It's like you can just move on to the next person, as the worth of people and individuals, the worth that we're giving other individuals is lessening and lessening. And that's something that the older generations didn't face, because that just wasn't a thing. So yeah, just as easy as it is to meet someone, it's as easy to ghost them or to just remove them. It's like this kind of quick turnover of friendships and relationships, because there's so many other options out there, which is amazing that we're now connected to everyone around the world, and you can meet people that you never would have once been able to meet or communicate with prior to technology being around. But then that brings the danger of thinking there's always a better option and always moving on without fully getting to know a person before doing so. Do we only keep friendships when they're convenient to us? Kind of like the idea of affordance, as I mentioned. Is it more convenient to maintain a friendship whereby it's okay to just comment every now and then, send a quick text every now and then, and you can still consider them your friend? Are they a more convenient friend than the one who actually wants you to meet up face to face? Yes, they're probably more convenient, but is that as valuable as a friendship? And will you really gain as much from that friend? Probably not. Like I said just there, our friendships now, are we now ranking our level of friends based on who texts us more? That's not really real. And this brings in the whole idea of generational conflict or generational disconnects. The older generations won't understand this as much. Now, obviously they have friends online now too, and they have to communicate with people online, and that's been great. But they will never know what it's like to have grown up with this idea of texting friends, and that's how you maintain friendships, and it being solely that. Whereas, and then also on the other hand, the younger generations will never know what it was like to grow up with a friend without having the option of texting them when they went home from school. So they didn't have that social skill of how to maintain a friendship when you can't just, click a button. You have to actually put in a bit more work. So that's why I think us Gen Zers are luckier, that we're the lucky ones. We got to experience a bit of both, so we can really empathize with both, because no one's at fault here. None of us chose to have technology or chose not to have technology. I'm just trying to find a way of living with technology and still be able to maintain genuine relationships with people. So then it brings in this idea of weak ties. I thought that was really fascinating when we learned about weak ties. I've never really thought about our weak ties being more beneficial than our strong ties. But at the same time, they're more beneficial when it comes to maybe career development, or what Granovetter says here, they're an important resource for mobility. So it's great to have weak ties, but are we now valuing them more than our strong ties? Are we looking at the amount of followers or so-called friends we have on a social media site and seeing that as a popularity thing, and then our genuine strong ties and people who are close to us, are they getting the same attention and love and effort that they deserve? Yeah, I mean, it's great, as I said, for having friendships overseas, especially as, you know, I'm away from home at the moment. It's amazing that I can keep up with friends who I won't get to see all the time. But I do realize that the way our friendship is being maintained is not the same as if I was to see them face to face. And I'm really noticing that. And it's made me really value my time with them when I do get to see them face to face, because I realize as much as cool and as handy as it is to have online interactions with people, it's not the same, and I don't gain the same human connection through a screen than I do face to face. And honestly, I don't think anyone can, as much as we tell ourselves that we can. Then brings in the online disinhibition effect. I'm not going to go through, I'm not going to go through all this, but this idea of asynchronicity, I really struggle saying that word. That really, I think, is quite dangerous, is now we can text someone while doing something else and everything is happening all at the same time. It's not that we're cutting out a piece of time to just spend with a person. Like, even if you do meet up with friends now or family or whatever, when people are just looking at their screens, it's like, when are we fully in the moment and fully in an interaction with a human? You know, not even just our friends, even strangers. Like, it's just, I like this kind of cartoon here. Social network has made us more antisocial than ever. And it's quite sad that that sense of community is kind of dying. But I'm getting onto it now, I promise. The moment of change, things we can do to maintain stronger, genuine relationships. Another quote by Twenge, studying generational differences is about understanding, not about criticism. So the way I keep talking about older generations and younger generations, it's not a criticism, it's trying to understand that we've all grown up in completely different ways, especially when it comes to how we socialize. And we've all had to socialize through different mediums or without certain mediums. And that in turn is going to make us have different experiences and different opinions on technology and being the idea of being connected or disconnected. And it's important to stop criticizing one another and just finding a way of entwining the different ways of socializing that we've all lived through to really have a really holistic and full way of interacting with humans. So here we are. This is the moment of change, which is, of course, the important part of this project. I don't want to just keep ranting about different things we should be doing or shouldn't be doing. But I just want to point out, these are just a few little challenges. I suppose it's the new year and I'm thinking of different ways that I myself want to find ways of interacting with people the way I once did before social media was such a big impact, had such a big impact in our lives. So there's a few different things. Obviously, screen time limits. I'm quite bad at these. I can just put in my passcode and, ignore the limit. But I really do want to try to stick to screen time limits these days. Not necessarily just because I don't want to be on social media all the time, but it's also just a way of, okay, if I get that pop-up saying you've been on your screen, it just brings me back to like, wow, how much time have I wasted? What else can I be doing with this time? And a lot of that can be going out and seeing people face to face or getting outside and interacting with strangers, different things like this that you don't get through your phone. Phone a friend. So I kind of want to do a challenge of, writing a list of names of people I want to keep in touch with. And rather than sending them texts, ring them once a week or once every 2 weeks or something like that. I think a phone call is as close to a face-to-face interaction as we can get through our phones. And it's a really nice thing to do. And even writing letters to friends, that could be something really cool. Talk to strangers. As much as we were told when we were younger, it's bad to talk to strangers. We can learn so much from other people. And these interactions that would have happened before when you talk to strangers in a shop or on the train or on the bus, these things don't really happen anymore because we're all kind of glued into our phones. So all of these are interlinked. If we spend less time on our phone, we might then end up talking to strangers, and then they could be the friends that we will end up phoning in the future. It's all linked up. And the last thing, have naked ears. What I mean by this is I want to try to challenge myself once a week on my commute to college to not have my earphones in. I love my music. I love listening to podcasts, but it creates this kind of barrier between myself and other people out on the streets. You never know what conversations might start, and I just think that's something easy we can do. So yeah, these are all different changes I think we can do, and we can remain connected in a world that is seen to be disconnected. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you gained something from this.